Chinese nationals leaving China and sneaking into America through the southern border. Quite honestly, I call bullshit. Hey everyone, I am Surant in China. 大家好，我是 Surant 在中国. And I want to make a quick video today about a topic that I've been getting a lot of questions about from my viewers online and from my friends and family back home. And that is, there are a lot of videos circulating right now from 60 Minutes and other news sources, also from other online YouTubers, of people talking about the exodus of Chinese nationals leaving China and sneaking into America through the southern border. And I kind of want to talk about that because, quite honestly, I call bullshit. Let me tell you why. First things first, when 60 Minutes and different places do interview these refugees from China, I noticed a lot of things right off the bat. First, a lot of the people they're interviewing are not Chinese. They have black curly hair, which is not a Chinese characteristic. They don't speak Chinese. They're very obviously Latin Americans, and they're filming them from the back just to make it look like they are Chinese people, but they're not. But another thing which is very, very noticeable is these people are claiming to have endured weeks, if not months, of arduous land journeys in buses, vans, container trucks, just really, really suffering and struggling in order to get to the southern border of America from within South America. Yet they're all looking fresh and clean, hair done, makeup on, uh, designer clothes, designer handbags, designer luggage. They look like $1 million. They look like people who are coming to America on holiday, not people who are fleeing repression in their home country. They did not come on container ships. They did not come on boats across the ocean from China. That's really just not possible, people. They flew into South America and traveled, like I said, for weeks and months to get to the southern border. Um, and when you look at these videos, the vast majority of the people in these videos are obviously not Chinese. They're obviously Latin American refugees, but that's beside the point. Now, in order for a Chinese person to do what they claim to be doing in this video, they need to go through a few steps first. First things first, when they interview these people, they say, oh, I had a successful business in China. I had a good life, et cetera, had a factory, had a good job. But the government was just so oppressive, I had to leave. I just had to leave. So I packed up everything and I flew to a South American country that doesn't require a visa. That's going to be a big point. And then you took the land journey from Chile or whatever other countries they said they went to, and came to the southern border to cross illegally, where I'm throwing away my passport, throwing away my Chinese ID, and throwing myself at the mercy of the American government and claiming refugee status. No, they're not. No, they're not. Now, why do I consider this to be all bullshit? Well, first, let's talk about the refugee status thing. Refugees generally are poor and oppressed people in most cases, right? So these people are not poor that they're filming. Like I said, Gucci bags, designer luggage, fancy clothes, hair, makeup, everything looking fantastic. So they didn't travel for weeks in the back of a container truck. They just didn't. Second, in order to fly from China to a South American country, whether or not it requires a visa, still requires a passport. I'm not leaving Canada without a passport. I'm not going to be allowed. I can't go into an airport and fly to a different country without a passport. That is a fact. The exact same is true in China. People can't just go to the airport here with no passports and hop on a plane and fly to South America. No goddamn way. That simply is impossible. It's not even possible for me anymore as a Canadian to go to America with just my driver's license like I used to be able to. Now, even I require, and every Canadian requires a passport just to go to America. So a passport is mandatory. So there's no way these people just illegally hopped on a boat or hopped on a plane and flew to Peru or Colombia or somewhere like that to go to the American border. It didn't happen that way. Not only that, you would have to have money to do that because it's not cheap to take flights to South America. In fact, it is much, much cheaper to fly to North America than it would be to South America because it's that much physically closer to China. That is a fact. So you're going to have a passport. You're going to have money. And then you're going to go subject yourself to this arduous trip coming from South America up to North America in order to illegally cross the border and hope that you can become an American citizen. Now, the process once you cross the border is not, oh, here's a lovely hotel room, here's some spending money, have a nice time. We'll get back to you when we're ready to discuss your citizenship. No, you go to a detention center, you go to a jail where you sit and languish for God knows how long. Everybody knows right now that there is a border crisis in America, and it is not just as simple as stamping a couple documents and here you go, welcome to America. No, that's not how that works. And they would like you to believe that, but that's another topic we'll talk about in a minute here. So, in order to leave China, you have to have money, you have to have a passport. And even though there are some South American countries that don't require a visa, that's bullshit too, because even though you do require a visa to get into America, it's one of the easiest processes you can imagine. I know because I went through it with my wife. My wife and daughter both have 10-year tourist visas to go to America. Did we have to go to a government office here and have interviews and be interrogated? No. Did we have to go to an American office and be interrogated? No. Did we even have to have plane tickets and hotel reservations in order to get that visa? No. Simply applied online, paid under $200, and within 2 weeks, I think for us it was a week and a day, they both had 10-year multi-entry visas to America. Under $200. Okay. So let's bring this all together here and see why people would subject themselves to this arduous journey through South America, then potential detention in America when they got there, and on top of that, after discarding their identification from China, they're John Does. They're nobodies. So not only are they going to have a harder time to actually apply for citizenship since they have no identification to prove who they are, but if they do get deported back to China, they are going to become criminals here for discarding their identification and trying to flee the country in that way. It does not make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Why would they not simply do what I did with my wife and my daughter? And I'm Canadian, so my citizenship has nothing to do with them getting those visas either. Why wouldn't these people who can afford to get passports, afford luxury items, and afford plane tickets to South America not just spend $200 more and get a legitimate 10-year multi-entry visa into America, where they could then fly legally to America? They could rent a place to live for a year, 5 years, 10 years, look for jobs, look for opportunities, look for sponsors, and actually go through the legal immigration process as opposed to becoming criminals, possibly in America and definitely back in their own home countries. And I'll tell you why. Now, this is my personal theory on it. Um, I have no proof of this, but this is my belief, and a lot of people believe the same way, is that the only reason a person would go through all that hassle to become an American citizen or become a refugee in America is because they're a criminal here in China already. They may have run afoul of the law. They may have not paid their taxes. They may be trying to funnel money out of the country and they got caught. Could be all number of things, but the only people who would benefit from this illegal and just horribly oppressive way of gaining U.S. citizenship are people that are doing it for the wrong reasons, right? It's not the poor people, because the poor people don't have money to buy plane tickets. The poor people generally don't have passports. The poor people just don't have the ability. It's not like in South America where the poor people can literally walk in convoys the thousands of miles to get to the American border, and many do. There is a huge ass ocean in between China and America, and they can't just all pop into shipping containers either, because if they don't have the money for a plane ticket, they ain't got the money to hop into a shipping container either. And none of the people they interviewed said that's the way they were coming, right? So I honestly, I claim bullshit. Um, Now, I don't think that even it's necessarily an influx of criminals from China into America either. I'll tell you what I honestly think is going on. Unless you've had your head buried in the sand for the past couple years, there's an election going on this year. And one of the number one issues in this election is the southern border. The invasion, as the Republican Party calls it, of illegals coming into the country. Now, it's one thing to scare people with the Latin American illegals coming into America, but they're also quite necessary. They do a lot of the work and the shitty jobs in America that the regular citizens don't. But if you can claim that Chinese people are flooding into America through the southern border, that makes it even scarier, because then you've got the dreaded communism. Oh my goodness, all the communists are coming in to take over our country, right? It's a wedge issue in this election. And the Republican Party in particular and the politicians are all looking for any fuel they can throw on that fire to scare their citizens into being terrified that their southern borders are wide open to the world. I'm surprised that they haven't been making more stories about Middle Eastern terrorists all coming up through the southern border as well. And who knows, that may come out yet too. But at the moment, those videos and those news stories you see about the influx of illegal Chinese immigrants coming into the country illegally through the southern border, once again, I'm going to call bullshit. I simply do not see that happening. If it is happening on a very, very, very minute degree, then they're people who have committed crimes or have reason to flee the legal system in China. No other reason than that, because any citizen here who has the means and money to buy Gucci bags and fly to South America can get a less than $200 visa with no interviews, no difficult processes, and go into the country legally, where they can look for jobs, they can look for support, they can look for homes, and they can take their bloody time doing it for 10 years. So, as I've said many, many times before, don't believe everything that you see on the Western news media. They're really trying to paint a bleaker picture than it is. And let me just show you, speaking of bleaker picture, I'm just out right now. I decided to stop before I started my bike ride. This is the bleak environment that I live in here in China. Okay, I'm sitting in this beautifully landscaped um, sports area. I'm over at the stadium area. So you can see flowers, you can see gardens everywhere. The building that you see right behind me over here is two giant Olympic-sized swimming pools. Again, I'd like you to point out to me all the trash and garbage everywhere. We've got flowers. Right behind me over here is a giant international-size soccer field, football. Behind me right here, this is the main stadium. This is where I go circle. I ride my bike in circles around it on a very regular basis. It's approximately a kilometer each loop, so that's where you can go see concerts and football matches, things like that. Then over here on this side, we've got a lake. We've got restaurants and cafes and different things like that. And then over here is a smaller stadium where they have an NBA sized basketball courts, and they do the CBA games in there and international events in there. So as you can see, this is not a repressive and terrible environment that I live in. It's beautiful. Even over here, you've got basketball courts for public, tennis courts, and this is all clean, safe. Right now, it's dead, which is why I come here in the middle of the afternoon because most people are working. But I love it. Why would anybody flee this?